to Movies Battle Remake.
Welcome to Battle Remake. My name is Buzzmead.
I'm Eric Little.
All right, here we go. There's actually a first on this episode, Eric. This is the first time where I haven't watched both movies to do a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have seen the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at least a billion times.
Really?
I used to watch it every day as a child. I haven't. I could probably memorize it. I think besides Top Gun, it's a movie that it was a staple for me growing up.
I remember watching it growing up, and I own at least one or I think I own this one, and I own at least one or two of the sequels on VHS. I want to say it's the third one I own because I feel like there's a bright yellow case for that one. I think it's the one. Is that the one where they were? Right. And the 3 is written in like very Japanese ninja looking, in a very Japanese ninja looking font. So they actually took this movie, do with it what you will, and turned it into a franchise. Visually, you know what it reminds me of visually, looking back at it after all these years? It reminds me of the 1990s TV series Dinosaurs. You remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you remember, Dinosaurs was the TV series where the dinosaurs were living and walking, and it was like Dinosaur Society. And the reason I say that is because just the costumes in this one and the actual look of the turtles themselves, it's not CGI. It's right before CGI, so they look like these big, giant foam costumes, which is exactly what the dinosaurs looked like on that ABC TV show. So visually, we're right at the cusp of CGI to where this is about the last era we have to use this kind of technology to portray the story.
Yeah. And Dinosaurs, is that where the little baby went, where he went not the mama all the time?
Not the mama. Yeah.
Not the mama. Yep. I recall that. Yep.
That's him.
Okay. Yeah. So I've seen that one a billion times. I hadn't seen this new one, and I kind of avoided it because I just didn't like the look of it. And after finally watching it, my really opinion hasn't been changed. This is going to be a really easy podcast for me.
Is that so?
I have proof to back every point of view that I have.
Okay.
I have plenty of proof, so I'm ready to go.
This is going to be a fun one then.
Let's check out the trailers for both these.
Our family grows. The city itself will be our playground to use as we please.
So this is actually Splinter talking, or not Splinter, the Shredder talking. I think they changed his voice. They changed his voice in the final film because it's not the same guy who was in the film.
This voice sounds like Santa Claus from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Look like sort of a big turtle in a trench coat.
I feel like this was like a pretty early trailer for this film because it doesn't feel like the film actually.
Yeah.
Yeah! I love being a turtle!
I think they changed that guy's voice too. The actor who played Michelangelo, I think they changed his voice as well.
I think they made him sound a little cooler.
Yeah.
We're taking hostages. Let's rock and roll.
This is the new trailer.
It's Saw City. That's what I'm talking about. Like shadows in the night.
Had you seen the new film, Eric?
I had not.
Yeah.
I was like you. It wasn't an apprehension that kept me away from the new one. but I had familiarity with the old one. Just hadn't seen the new one.
We will find you. Yeah, we'll find you. I'm sorry, that came across super creepy, okay? We will find you though. My sons, I have trained you your whole lives to protect the city above. But I fear you are not ready for its greatest threat. We're taking your armor to the next level. Shredder. Sensei, you must stop Shredder. Together, you are stronger than he can ever be. Let's go save my brothers. Four turtles, one's fighting a robot samurai. Why not? So they're aliens?
No, that's stupid. They're turtles.
Is there anything else we should know about them?
They're ninjas.
Hey. All right, let's get this started.
Round one.
For round one, let's talk about the story. In 1990, it stays pretty true to the comic. There are four turtles. They get drowned in some kind of mutagen, along with their master, a Splinter, who's a rat. It sounds like I'm a crazy person. They like evolve
Or a
into
gangster.
these.
that Splinter is a rat.
Right, yeah. So they evolve into these creatures, and in the original Splinter, how does this work? He has a master who he like imitates, and that's how he learns the martial arts. And then he trains.
He basically has a Japanese sensei that he mimics, all while these turtles are kind of living in the same place. They all emigrate to the United States around the same time. They there's an accident and they end up in the sewers together, and then that's where the turtles and Splinter get their powers, and then Splinter teaches them karate and you know,
and
ninja.
the guy who kills his sensei is the Shredder. So that's how they have a beef with him and stuff like that.
Right.
And then Shredder ends up in New York, and he starts to rebuild the Foot Clan, and he kind of uses disenchanted like youth, starts to build up the clan like that. And that's kind of and then there's April O'Neil, who is a TV reporter for Channel 6 News.
Yes.
And she finds the turtles, and she kind of befriends them, and hilarity ensues. For the remake, it's a lot different. The turtles are a pet, Megan Fox, and her dad is a scientist. Her dad is working on a mutagen, and he's working with somebody else, played by William Fitcher, and he gets double-crossed by William Fitcher, and it turns out that William Fitcher knows the Shredder because, how does he know him? He was like his student or something like that?
I believe so, but in public he makes it look like he's trying to take down the Foot Clan, and his foundation is trying to take down the Foot Clan when really he's backing the Foot Clan.
Right, exactly, yeah. And they're trying to make a some kind of like poisonous gas that goes over New York, and then his company will come in and save the day, and then he'll get a lot of money, and as he says in the movie, he'll become a stupid rich. Which, oh my God, don't get me started on that. Okay, so of these two storylines, which did you prefer, Eric?
Well, if you're looking at just the story, the 1990 film isn't bad, but I'm going to go remake here because I think they tighten up a lot of things that take a long time to tell in the original one, and I like the origin story better. It just seems so much better. When you're watching that montage in the 1990 film of how the origins happen, where they're in that ooze, it just looks so corny and so cheesy and so unbelievable. I so much more buy the idea of them being Megan Fox's pet, and I like that connection with April. That's kind of a cool thing for me in that film. It works so much better for me. It makes so much more sense than just they bathed in this ooze that it looked like an extra was paid $10 to just drop on these little turtles, while they were filming that scene. That is so shoddily done in the 1990 film. So the 2014, hands down.
Oh man,
best story.
All right. I'm going to go original because the 2014 film is ridiculous. The plot does not make sense at all.
And the other does?
Here's my problems. My problems are that the beats don't make sense and that the motivations of the characters, they don't make sense. And the backstory is so convoluted that it just doesn't make sense. There are like lines that just are so like out of place. I'll give you an example. So April goes down to the dock and she talks to a dock worker. A few minutes later, she Skypes him, and then he talks to her through Skype. And I was like,
I think it's a different dock worker though.
No, that's the same guy. That's the exact same guy because
is it?
Yeah, because he played in Fringe. I know that guy.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, how did she get it? How does she even know his user Skype? No, that doesn't make any sense. She takes a photo of the turtles, and then when she's trying to explain who they are, like to her editor, played by Whoopi Goldberg, she has all this evidence, and she never even shows her the picture that she took of the turtles, which would have changed the story right there. It doesn't make any sense. I thought
her best evidence though was wiped clean by the turtles before she got back to the studio though. So really all she had was the one picture, I believe.
No, because that's the picture that she shows to William Fitcher, and he's like, "Oh yeah, those are the turtles." I mean, she could have easily just shown.
If you're William Fitcher's character at that point, you have an idea what those are.
Yeah,
William Fitcher's.
That's true. The other thing,
I say, William Fitcher's character at that point knows who the turtles are and knows what they are.
Right.
Whoopi's character, you have to sell her on that. That could be a Photoshop that somebody's done.
I know, but it's so convenient that she doesn't believe her and stuff like that. And then there's just other. I mean, okay, so this evil plan.
What's the oldest rule in TV news? You got to see the video. It's got to be on video, or it didn't happen.
I know, but she had a picture.
Oldest rule.
She could have easily showed her. It seems. I mean, and I can go on and on. I mean, like the snow, like mountain fight. Where is there a mountain like that big in upstate New York? There's not a mountain that big. It went on for like a half hour, that fight.
Yeah, I think they somehow morphed from the Adirondacks to the Alps or something like that. I mean that's a little out there to believe, but honestly, to me, those things don't outweigh how much better the rest of that story flows in the 1990 story. I find the 1990 movie, upon second watching, a complete dumpster fire of a film because those characters, the turtles, are not written for a kid audience. They're not written for adults. They're not written for kids. Like, why would a kid go to that movie and care about a turtle that could do a James Cagney impression? If I'm a kid in 1990 looking back at that, I'm like, who is James Cagney and why do I care?
Right.
Like, it's just... It misses the mark on the audience so much for things like that. Just the jokes don't fall. I mean,
sure.
There has to be a sophomoric element of the Ninja Turtles, which is the pizza guzzling and the constantly swooning over April, and you get that because they're teenage mutant. That's the teenage aspect of it, and that's kind of true to the characters. But boy, you go from that to doing stupid impressions and it just. I don't know. So some of that stuff falls flat for me in the first one. I believe the stuff in the second one much better than I believe a lot of that stuff in the first, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right. And the last thing I'll say is that from the original, I got like more of a sense that it was a story about family and about like trying to get Splinter back because he's kidnapped in the first one, and that's what they're that's the motivation, and that's a better motivation, like to me, than to trying to stop some stupid gas that's gonna poison the city because this guy wants to in turn save the city. It just doesn't make any sense. So, but
well, they're also doing that and trying to get Splinter back.
No,
I mean, it
'cause
feels
he's
like
dead.
they have to go.
They thought he was dead, and then they want to get the mutagen to save him or something like that.
Right.
That's what it is.
Well, I think they were doing one to get to the other.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go to round 2 here as soon as I found the button.
Round 2.
Okay.
Round 2, which director do you like better, Steve Barron or Jonathan Liebesman?
Okay. I'll go Steve Barron. I think 2014 is not a funny film. It keeps trying to be funny. Everyone tries to crack jokes. The jokes aren't funny. They just land so flat. Every time the Megan Fox, every time she has dialogue, it is so just like one note, and it's so bad. I mentioned it before, but when William Fitcher is telling his story, he's telling the turtles, this whole plan. He says, I'm going to be rich, and then he kind of winks at the camera and he goes, I'm going to be stupid rich. It's like, what do you? It's just not. I don't know who this film was for. I think you were commenting that you didn't know who the '90s film was for. I don't know who the 14 film was for because it's not really for kids. I mean, it's like the turtles are dark. They're they're not really kid friendly. I don't know who it's for, so I go the original director.
Original.
Well, you got that right, and I think we'll address that in the next one. The turtles aren't really friendly, especially not at first in the remake. I'm going to go Jonathan Liebesman here, and the main reason is there's so much CGI in this film. I feel like you'd have to direct people to work with green screens constantly, and to get out of them the performances that you need. The truck scene, as ridiculous as that might have been, you still have Will Arnett and Megan Fox to direct in a scene where they're not seeing what's around them until they probably screen the film.
Okay.
Truth be told. So I thought it was a pretty admirable job of doing that and merging animated characters with people that they could not see. Whereas, everything in the 1990 film is I'm looking at this costume character of a Ninja Turtle, and while I don't think it's directed poorly, I didn't really have any major problems with the way either one was shot. I really liked the way the 2014 begins with kind of an animated, the animated beginning there. Reminded me of. It reminded me almost of something Kung Fu, really,
yeah.
Where they told you the backstory with a cartoon, but I'm going to go Liebesman because of all the CGI work that he had to lead all of those actors through.
Okay. I see what's going on here, Eric. It's becoming blatantly obvious what's going on here. Let's talk about the actual turtles.
We're headed for 90-90.
Pretty much, yeah. Let's talk about the actual turtles. Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael.
Yeah, you got all four of them in there somewhere.
Did you prefer the 1990 version of these cute and heroic turtles, or did you prefer the overly gross 2014 because they are gross?
Wow, you'd be the worst political moderator of all time in a debate because you're just throwing out your opinions right there. Which tax deal do you like better? Do you like the one from this party or the awful nasty one from that party? I am going to go with the original on this one, and here's why.
Oh my goodness, that's a surprise.
Original.
And you nailed it on the head. I don't understand why the turtles are so surly at the beginning. These are turtles that are chomping at the bit to get out into society in both cases. And the 1990 turtles at least are friendly, while the 2014 turtles are borderline creepy and threatening to Megan. Like if Megan Fox was the kind of woman that carried mace, Donatello or Leonardo, I think, was the most threatening. Leonardo would have got it at some point in the first scene together because they came on really strong and really surly for no good reason, and they didn't really do a whole lot after that to connect or to make that bond. Yeah. Where in 1990, you at least get the scene where they're in her apartment, they're having pizza together, you can see a connection forged between the turtles and April, which is even more astounding given that they gave the 2014 turtles the backstory of them being her pets.
Exactly.
So we're given this odd juxtaposition of Megan Fox being hit on by her mutant former pet and her mutant former pet trying to make obvious sexual passes at her. That's just
Yeah, that's just strange.
So wrong.
Yeah, so you're going original.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go original Turtles here with this one.
Yeah, the original Turtles are, I mean, they're huggable and they're lovable. They're less, threatening as far as like just like their actual like appearance. The ones from the remake I thought were overly obnoxious. They were just odd looking as far as like their faces and stuff like that. I thought all the voices were kind of annoying, and I hope this is taken the right way, but I felt like they were overly urban because it just felt like they were trying to portray like them as, I don't know, just like inner city type of, urban like teens or something like that. And I didn't, and yeah. I mean, like for me, that's harder to connect with as far as like just getting on their side, so I go original as well.
Original.
I thought they were a little too big in the remake as well.
Yeah,
they were almost like 7-8 foot tall.
Yeah.
In the remake, whereas in the original they were more human sized. I mean, the size that we see them more in the comic, and
yeah.
I base a lot of the stuff on the Turtles in the late 80s, early 90s cartoon series because I loved that cartoon series. That was my jam back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And and to me that's definitive Turtles, and the movie. At least tried to go after those turtles, and I think at least with the looks of the turtles, it succeeded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what Eric's talking about here.
Yes,
you
had this prepared. Here is in a half shell. That's turtle power. Right.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that's another problem that I have with the remake is they are so big, and then Shredder is an actual guy, but they give him a suit of armor, and the way he moves in that suit, it isn't believable because it's so big, and I mean he's doing like flips and jumps and stuff like that, and it's just it didn't translate for me as as real. So
yeah,
let's go. Where's the bell here? Let's go round 4 here.
Round 4.
Which Splinter did you like better, Kevin Clash from the 1990 original or Tony Shalhoub from 2014?
I kept trying to figure out who was the voice for the Turtles or for Splinter because I knew the voice, and I kept trying to place it, and at first I thought it was somebody else, and then it dawned on me that it was Tony Shalhoub. Why is it Tony Shalhoub? Isn't he supposed to be like a not Asian, but he's supposed to be like Japanese, like he's supposed to be like a sensei and stuff like that. So like why cast him? It doesn't make any sense. I don't have any problem like with the original. I kind of like it actually. So and I really don't like that he learned ninjutsu from a book. I don't like that at all because it's like if these guys are supposed to be awesome, how they were trained by someone who learned from a book, and that's just not my jam. So I go original.
I agree. It'd be like going to your favorite chef's restaurant and finding out that they learned from Betty Crocker at the age of 25, and
exactly
it would take away a little bit for you. I don't really get Tony Shalhoub either. I mean, his two most famous roles being Monk, a kind of OCD detective, and Antonio Scarpacci, a taxi driver from the sitcom Wings. And neither one of those really equates to bad guy on one of the most iconic cartoon and child character series, of the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder why they didn't go with somebody Japanese.
Right.
It seemed like that would have been a great place to cast somebody younger, maybe an unknown.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Kevin Clash here with you as well.
Okay. As far as his appearance, how did you like the remake? It seemed like it was more like lifelike, and he looked more like a rat actually to me. But it was kind of also frightening that he looked more like a rat too.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. At the beginning they have him out of the suit, and they dress him out of the suit, and I didn't really excuse me. I don't know why I'm getting Shredder confused here.
I get them mixed up too, so it's no big deal.
The alliteration's tough. The hairdo in the original or in the remake is weird for me. It's like he's a rat, but he's got like a human haircut. I don't really get why. That doesn't make any sense to me. So
okay, all right.
But still, I'm gonna take back the thing I said about Tony Shalhoub being a bad guy because I don't know why I got these crossed up for a second. I think it's the alliteration. Still, Monk and Antonio Scarpacci don't really calculate to Sensei of the Ninja Turtles, just like they don't calculate to bad guy of the Ninja Turtles.
No, they don't.
So, yeah, Splinter was one of my favorite parts
agreed.
of the original.
Yeah, me too. And I like at the very end where he says, "I've always liked a cowbunga," which comes out of nowhere, but it's just funny. So, all right, that's it for round 4. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with more Battle Remake.
Hi.
Oh my god, I'm dead!
It's okay.
Oh no, I'm dreaming. I must be dreaming. Okay, now those guys in the black pajamas, they jumped me. And that rat, I saw you in the parking lot. That explains you. And you guys, I have no idea where you came from.
If you will please, just sit down and calm yourself. I will tell you where we came from.
Talks.
It is really quite simple, Miss O'Neill.
And he knows my name. Perfect.
15 years ago.
Why don't I ever dream of Harrison Ford?
All right, that was a clip from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's talk round 5 here.
Round 5.
April O'Neil. The original was played by Judith Hoag, and the remake was played by Megan Fox. Which did you prefer, Eric?
Hands down, I'm going to go remaking Megan Fox, and here's why.
Jesus Christ.
I think Megan Fox does a much better job of depicting what it is like to be a young journalist trying to find herself in a career and find herself in the world. Judith Hoag is what is wrong to me about so many 80s and early 90s depictions of the media.
Okay.
Where as far as the story goes, you see this person at the TV station, then they come on the news for a couple minutes a night, and it's like, what do they do all day to get that? Megan Fox is hustling, and you call it one note earlier, but I look at it as the way they portray this character is just someone that is so singularly driven. And I've known a number of people in this industry that come off as so boring and so, like they don't have... They don't ever loosen up.
Sure.
And it's because there are a lot of people in her position especially that are so singularly focused on the career and advancing that they're not a well-rounded individual at that point of their lives. So I think Megan Fox portrays that, and maybe that's unintentional, I don't know, but I like that she's so focused on that. It gives me a sense that she's at least working, and rather than just sitting there and being famous.
Sure.
Okay.
And I understand what you're saying, and if it was any other actress in that role, I think I'd agree with you. I feel like they cast Megan Fox, and they said, all right, we need to give her so much backstory. We need to make sure that everyone is on her side because no one likes Megan Fox. So they have her dad die. They have that she used to own the Turtles. She's not respected at work. She rides a goddamn bicycle. I mean, they just keep adding stuff so that you're on board with her. And I just don't like her as an actress. I just don't like her. But I know what you're saying. It's more credible. But at the same time, I think I think she does hustle, and she is trying to get the story. And I mean, like, she has, opposition like from her editor and from the police chief. And it's more of a vote, I guess, against Megan Fox, but I never really had a problem like with Judith Hoag's, her performance or whatever. So I'll go original.
Original.
Okay, let's go round 6.
Round 6.
Yeah, I had nothing else to add there.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Round 6, which
I didn't know, and I'm gonna try to edit around this, but like me and Eric aren't in the same place. I'm in Mexico and Eric's in West Virginia, so sometimes we can't always hear each other over Skype.
But we're not even in the same country.
Yeah, we're not even in the same country now. Yeah, exactly.
Round 6. Which Shredder did you prefer? The original Shredder, played by James Saito, or the remake Shredder, played by Tohoru Masamune?
Nice job on that pronunciation, Eric. I think you deserve some applause for that one.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna go original. The new Shredder. After watching the movie a few times because it took me a few times to get through it. I still don't know what he's doing. I think he's trying to take over New York. Is that right?
It seems like he and the rich guy want to really just rule things. The rich guy, I don't know what his stakes are. I don't know if he's going to be if there's going to be a power struggle after they release the gas and kill everybody, and then they get the antidote and save the day. I don't know if New Shredder has some kind of a big role or is going to get stupid rich out of all this too. But his stakes aren't as well defined as the other guy's stakes.
And I think that's my problem with it, is that I don't know his motivation. The original, it was a good character that he was trying to recruit all the youth of New York who no one really wanted, and everyone was ignoring it, and nobody wanted to include, and then turn them into his foot soldiers. And I thought that was a great way to approach it. I'm not sure that's how the comic is or the animated one was, but I think it's an interesting motivation for a character, so I go original for that one.
Original.
Ties in with what I want to say in round 7.
Oh, okay. You have to pick though.
Oh, did I not pick? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go. I'm going to go original here because I like the motivations better. I'll try to save something here back for the 7th, but the idea of using the Foot Clan almost as a boys' club for neglected boys.
Yeah.
It seems like it seems like it gives them a lot more motivation. There's just such a cult-like presence about that. That to me is the darkest part of that story.
Yeah. Yeah, keep going. I mean, I totally agree with that. Us round 7 is the Foot Clan. I take it from there. Go ahead, go.
Yeah, and basically you're comparing 1990 versus 2014. I'm going to go original as well because the Foot Clan.
Original.
They've got stakes. They've got an idea of, if you're not getting the attention that you deserve from your parents, or that if you don't feel your parents have a place for you in their lives, you don't feel like your parents care about you, hey, here's the way to go. That's basically how cults start. You remember where we were with cults in 1990?
Yes.
That's not too far before the Branch Davidians. I think the Branch Davidians in Waco was 92. Mm-hmm. It seemed like those were a lot more prevalent in the 80s, and people turning to things like that when they didn't get the attention that they felt they deserved. So I feel like we're in a culture back then where the Foot Clan is a lot more relatable if you watch that movie in its original context, whereas in 2014 these look like trained assassins. These look like the putties from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Honestly, I mean they even look like them other than the way they're dressed. I mean they're dressed in black. That's the only difference. So in 1990 at least they've got some motivation, and it's an odd following that Shredder's created.
The original one, I think you said it was a boys' club or something like that, and the bouncer is Sam Rockwell in one of his early roles, and I always remembered him walking through that club and saying, if there's anything that you want to do it, kind of type thing, and someone asks him, do you have any cigarettes, as if that's the worst thing they can think of, and he pulls out 2 or 3 cartons of it or something like that. But I mean, right. The original ones, they have style, they have interesting costumes. They have the history of causing trouble over in Japan, and then they bring them over here. And these new guys, I think they mention it, but I mean they're just guys with guns, and it doesn't make them interesting. It doesn't make them daunting at all. It's just kind of people for them to beat up, and maybe they take away their faces just because there is so much violence, and they just want it to be mindless violence. I don't know, but I go original as well.
Yeah,
original.
All right. That's it for round 7. We'll take another real short break, and we'll be right back with more Battle Remake.
What's with the hat?
What is with the... I don't know, it's a buddy of mine. It's just a goof.
What do you want to do? Want to head downtown?
Eric Sachs is working with the head of the Foot Clan. They just kidnapped the vigilante turtles to take them to the Sachs estate. We need to go. Come on, Vern.
I can't believe you like Megan Fox.
The turtles. I forgot. This is getting
I don't know. I buy that depiction so much better.
Adults. We're both very good looking. You're better, probably.
And she's coming off a successful arc in New Girl, where I kind of like the character.
Hang out with each other. You want to spend more time with me? I get it. I would too.
We need to get to the Sachs estate right now, Vern. Come
That's
on.
what I'm talking about, O'Neill. The Sachs estate with the vigilante.
Drive!
You're a talking turtle.
Yeah, I'm a talking turtle. And you're a human nerd. Now that we got that out of the way, hit it.
How does it make any sense, by the way?
No, it's kind of lame.
Never been accused of being a nerd before, but I'm sorry.
And that's the part he sticks on.
How did he get in there?
All right, so that's a scene from the remake version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was Will Arnett as Vernon Fenwick. He works for Channel 6 News as a cameraman, and he likes Megan Fox, but he doesn't want to say he likes Megan Fox. For round 8 here, let's talk male leads. So I mentioned Will Arnett already. In the original, it was Casey Jones, played by Elias Koteas, I believe. They are bringing back Casey Jones in the sequel that's coming out next week. He's played by Stephen Mel, obviously, duh. So of these two lead male characters, which performance did you enjoy more, Eric?
Well, enjoy is kind of a funny word to use here. I thought they were both really weak leads.
Okay.
For different reasons. Really not even different reasons. I just think neither one of them is as assertive as they need to be, especially given that Casey Jones is supposed to be a tough guy, you know, and all of a sudden he can't be the guy that rises to the occasion when they need someone to rise to the occasion so many times. But boy, a vote for Casey Jones here is a vote against Will Arnett. So I'm going to go Elias Koteas here because I just, usually at some point of these movies, the Will Arnett character, because this is such a stereotype character, you know, he just doesn't think he's ever going to land the girl. She's totally out of his league, and he's right. But for some reason, she likes him. You can tell she likes him, you know, because he's the one that's getting all the phone calls, and you know, the one that she knows she can rely on. But he just can't nut up and say anything about it. And usually, at some point, there's the character rises up to the occasion, and it just never happens with Will Arnett in this movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Casey Jones seems like the kind of guy that looks all big and bad and tough, but you know, maybe in 2014 he's looking at pictures of 1990 Casey Jones, and his kids are wondering why he has the long hair and why he has the hockey stick, and you know, he hasn't played hockey in 20 years now, and you know, so on and so forth. So he grew out of that phase. He grew out of that phase real fast. We know all kinds of Casey Joneses.
Sure.
Let's be real. So yeah, I'm gonna go Casey Jones as a vote against Will Arnett.
Okay, that's cool. You know what? I didn't dislike Will Arnett. I understand the role that he's trying, to play in this as like a comic relief type thing, but it didn't do it for me, and it wasn't even his acting. It was just how the character was written, I think maybe. And I dig Casey Jones. I like the look of him in the original. I like some of his lines. Then again, I don't remember a lot about his motivation. But kind of like you, I vote for Casey Jones is a vote against Vernon Fenwick. So I'll go original as well.
Well, they both had the same motivation. That was April O'Neil.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe you're right. I guess so. But that's a weak motivation,
Kinda.
I don't know. Let's go round 9.
But is it?
Yeah, it is.
Round 9.
Yeah. Which depiction of the news do you like better? What's that?
I have Channel 3 written here, but isn't it Channel 6?
That's hard to tell. Just go with depiction of the news. Which depiction of the news do you like here in the news station? 1990 or 2014?
Okay. I like 1990 better. No surprise. I like how the police they catch the editor's son. I think stealing something, and then they kind of put pressure on him to to try and control like April O'Neil. So there's a lot of dynamics going on there, like as far as the characters. The remake one, I don't know why Whoopi Goldberg is in this movie. I don't think she was smart about anything that she did, and it's not even the fact that they didn't listen to April, but at some point, like, I like it, if characters are able to see like both sides of something and weigh the options and say, okay, well, this is why, like, I don't believe you or something like that, and I just never got that. It was very like one-sided. So I'll go original.
For the reasons I talked about earlier, I'm going to go remake on this one.
Okay.
In 1990, you just don't see that hungry. You hear her talk about being a hungry journalist, but she doesn't ever really. And she has the clashes, but you don't ever see her put in the legwork. Megan Fox is assigned all these puff pieces, but in her spare time, she's trying to talk to people, and she managed to get the guy on Skype. However, she managed to do it, and she's riding past. And she's riding past the shipyards. So she's trying to find stuff and dig for stuff, and she's trying to prove herself. And I'll be honest, 2014 Megan Fox reminds me of my friend Molly, who works for a major market newspaper, and I'll admit the newspaper, in case she doesn't want to be called out like this, but I think she's somebody that is very driven, very motivated, always wants to be getting a bigger story, and wants to find the one story that's going to break her out of this. And what I get out of Megan Fox is what I get from my friend Molly. Okay. It just seems like she's always trying to find that big story that's going to be her break, her Pulitzer, her and the way that she's constantly talked down to and has to feel like she's proving herself, I find that a lot more believable than just, well, I'm going to come here and talk about the Ninja Turtles, for 2 minutes on the news at night and not really have any news. It's like a commentary she delivers basically on that. And I just think it's a truer portrayal of what real life journalism's like in 2014.
But everything you said there was about April O'Neil. That's round 5. So like round 9, I'm talking about the actual people that are in the news thing. I'm talking about the whole like round table about the news discussion about like Whoopi Goldberg as the editor, about just like everything else.
And for all those reasons, I'm still going to go with 2014 because she even with the forgetting the Taron Killam character too, who's one of the chief voices piping up against her, and she's always trying to prove herself, and she makes these elaborate, gathering. What do you call those? Maybe like a Pinterest board almost. Right. Of her, connecting all her evidence that she thinks she has. It just doesn't hold up for Whoopi. She's trying to prove herself against that culture. Yeah. And she's just not able to get it done in that newsroom because there are so many other people vying for attention. Whoopi goes for the safe story rather than the bombastic story that is going to be a home run if they can prove it to be true.
Sure.
And for that reason, I really wanted to see some vindication. I really wanted to see some vindication for the Megan Fox character, as a journalist in the end, because she loses her job over the whole thing, but you never see any of that paid back.
Right. And you see that vindication in the original because, at the very end, they kind of see like where they went wrong or whatever, and they try to bring her back, and they want to get her back on the news. Right. So that's kind of why I go original. Right. But it's cool. It's cool. We can disagree to Yeah.
Well, I would cite that in my consideration of the story rather than the depiction of the news. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
That's kind of why I don't. Yeah, I go remake here.
All right. Let's talk round 10. Which of these films had the better ending, 1990 or 2014?
I really didn't like how 2014's in it. It felt abrupt to me.
Yeah.
I thought 1990's made a little bit more sense. So I'm going to go 1990 because you don't have a lot of those hang-ups and characters kind of in limbo. Basically, the city gets saved. Is there a scene where the rich guy gets it in the end?
That's a good question. It's a really good
not
question.
That I can recall.
I remember he gets.
I know the city's saved, and they discover that they're turtles.
Right, and from what I remember, I think Will Arnett hits him or something like that, and he falls down and he's knocked out. But there's nothing ever kind of tied up with that character, is there?
Yeah, he slugs him in the face, but when no one's watching. Yeah. So he rises to that occasion, but he can't ask Megan Fox out right after his car's been bombed.
Oh boy. Sometimes it's hard,
Yeah,
dude.
and
I mean, it's a big matzo ball you put out there, so.
You know what? Like, I tell you what, as someone who's grabbed a girl in the arm and just flat out laid it out there for her, I gotta say, sometimes it's better to swing and miss than to never have swung at all. So, at least you got that for you going at the end of the day.
That's true.
So so I don't know. I don't like that ending in 2014. He's gonna lets it go, and it's like I said earlier, it's obvious that she's into him. It's obvious she's into him. He's her phone call.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, I did not like 2014 at all, and the ending where like Raphael, he confesses, all of his sins, which felt like forever. By the way, it has to be at least a 5 or 10 minute speech.
Yeah,
and I was just like, how big is this building, and how long is this fall? So I didn't like that.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate the original, a lot better. Like when they go and save Splinter, and it's about saving their father, and it's about family, and it's kind of what I got from it, at least. And I didn't understand the remake plot, so I have to go original.
Original.
All right, that's it for round 10. Let's go to a section that we call
That's a Wrap.
And Eric, you can start us out. If you had to recommend either of these films, which would you recommend?
I'm going to recommend 2014 all the way. I don't think it's going to win today based on numbers, but I just think it's so much of an easier film to sit down and watch and relate to.
Really?
As compared to 1990. I don't know that the jokes land. I think the April O'Neil character and the Casey Jones character look so dated at that point.
Sure.
And I just think you're going to relate to Megan Fox and Will Arnett a lot better. Even though I don't really care for Arnett's portrayal of Vernon Fenwick, and I know you're not a big Megan Fox fan here, but and that character does, and I can see why you're not. That character does come off as kind of one note, but and I don't know if she means to do it or not, but I attribute that to just her desire in this position. But for a lot of reasons, that and I think the Turtles are at least a little bit better written for in 2014.
Oh, come on, dude. Jeez.
And the backstory is a lot cleaner. I find it cleaner. I find it a lot more relatable.
The backstory.
I think the 2000.
Come on. Are you serious?
We've talked about this before. Yeah, we've talked about this before. To me, that I relate so much better to the idea that they were her childhood pets and her father was murdered by this bad guy, and and it comes out that that's where this all was, and she has that connection with him, as opposed to Splinter was a rat that lived in Japan and learned from mimicking, the guy who was his owner or whatever, and then all of a sudden the ooze gets dumped on these turtles. I don't know. It just that doesn't float.
I learned guitar by mimicking people.
Well, you can learn guitar by mimicking people, fine, and that's there's all kinds of teach yourself guitar courses,
exactly,
and posters that have the chords and where you're supposed to put your fingers on that stuff. Yeah. They have all kinds of material like that. But show me one poster that says, "Here, teach yourself ninja," that goes in a little kid's bedroom. So, yeah,
I'm gonna find it on the internet because I know it exists. Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Tell me this though. Who is the remake for? Like what age group is it for? Is it for little kids?
It's for the age group that would appreciate Marvel comic movies. This is an attempt. Ugh. This is an attempt to go for the comic book crowd. An attempt to go for the crowd that is going to see these characters in this universe because these characters. So while you're waiting for the next Captain America movie, here are the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Here's another character and that we don't really have to do a whole lot to tell you about the backstory or to tell you who these guys are. You know who they are. They're the Ninja Turtles. You can tell them by name. I'll be 80 years old at some point, and I guarantee you I can match the Ninja Turtle by the color when I'm 80 years old. That's just how these characters are, how iconic they are, and how pervasive they stay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that either one, truth be told, really hits its mark entirely with an audience. But I know I really don't feel like the 1990 one does at all. It doesn't feel like that movie. While the Turtles look cute and cuddly, they sound old and fogey and cheesy, and I don't really get that. The jokes don't fall, and I'm not saying they fall in 2014 either, but at least they appeal to me on the warrior and the tough guy thing, so
maybe. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just say that I didn't like the 14 at all. I think it's terrible. I think it's I think you're right in some aspects that the 1990 it needed some kind of an update, but I don't think that was the update that it needed. It's a lot like what they're doing, like with Superman and like Batman Superman. It's not true to who the character is, and sooner or later, I think they're going to find that out. The audiences aren't really interested in that, you know. And I know it's getting a sequel and it's going to come out next week and stuff like that. But you know, I don't think audiences are going to buy into it.
Is it possible, like with so many other films in the series, that the best film hasn't been made yet?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I do think so.
It's very likely. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Okay. Our final score here is 96 to 94.
Original.
Just squeaks it out. Mainly because I was so stubborn, but that's just how I am. It's okay. It's cool. What are your thoughts on Stephen Amell as Casey Jones?
In the new one here? I don't know. I like that the Casey Jones character is getting introduced. I'd be interested to see how it's portrayed. I think he's going to maybe have a look about him from what I've seen, which admittedly isn't a ton. But from the pictures I've seen of this, of Casey Jones in the new one, I think it's a look that's going to be a little bit more timeless than, you know, the backwards cap, ripped up jeans 1990 Casey Jones. I like the fact that Casey Jones is getting portrayed in the second one, because that was one of my big questions when I realized early on in 2014, oh, wait, there's no Casey Jones in this one. So.
Yeah. I'm a big Stephen Amell fan. I don't know if I see him as Casey Jones though. He's so the Arrow for me right now that it's like when Robert Downey Jr. played Sherlock, and I couldn't buy that either. You know, I just see him as Iron Man.
It depends on so many things with it, and the main thing is what direction are they going to expect him to take the character, and what direction will he take the character?
Yeah, it's true. All right, that's it for Battle Remake this week. You can follow us online at www.battleremake.com. You can find us on iTunes, on Facebook, and the Twitters. That's about it. My name is Buzz Mead.
I'm Eric Little.
Until next time, have a good time all the time.